Very good. Okay. We will call to order this special meeting of the Easton Board of Education at 7:32 p.m. on Monday, June 21st, 2021. Members in attendance: Jeff Parker, Devin Weibel, Randy Hicks, and John Stinson. We will start with public comment. If you would like to make public comment, please use the raise hand feature in the participant window of Zoom. Seeing none, hearing none.
Dana Benson, John.
Oh, yep, just popped up. If you can state your name and
yeah, Dana Benson, 34 Pond Road, Easton. Dana Benson, 34 Pond Road, Easton. I'm sorry, for some reason I can't seem to get video on, so I got to change this picture in that Funicello and Frankie Avalon, but haven't gotten around to it. So anyway, so obviously the concern is the integrity or the methodology of the survey, the parental survey. You know, I know Devin, thank you very much for your efforts Friday night to reassure parents about this being able to take the thing multiple times. There is still a concern out there, which I'm sure you're very well aware of and hopefully have addressed today or will address this week, that parents are able to go to a different browser and take the survey multiple times. So I hope, I think as you all know, me and most of the people that are allied with me, for lack of a better word, with Save Our Town, Save Our Schools, we're not in favor of the surveys. But now that they are happening, we want to make absolutely sure that they are done in a way that they cannot be manipulated. And I'm not a data expert, but I really think that the boards and the administration must address this because these surveys were so controversial in some respects. So I respect Dr. Harrison working over the weekend, sent me a note, sent notes to other people. I respect Devin Weibel's hard work on Friday. And I just want to say, please fix this. Please reassure people. Somebody sent me a copy of the link. I opened it and went in. The survey form opened up and I stopped. I said, no, I'm not, even though I'm against this, I'm certainly not going to undermine it. And I think, you know, hope is a strategy in some areas, religion, et cetera. But on Wall Street, where I come from, we always say hope is not a strategy. And I don't think we can just hope that people won't manipulate the surveys. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. RJ Bolito. RJ, you should be able to unmute.
Yes, actually, it's Maureen Hanley, but there's no video, and I wasn't able to change my name. That's my
very good.
That's my son's screen name. I'm not sure why video is not enabled, but everybody can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Yes. So, you know, per my email that I sent out to all the Board of Ed members, as well as Dr. Harrison, I have real concerns with all the chatter I've seen on Facebook about parents taking the survey multiple times. I've gotten messages that they've sent it out to family members out of state to see if they could take it, and they've taken it. And per my email, I don't understand. I've been involved in so many surveys in my 29 financial services years of being in financial services, and there's so many controls that can be put in place on these surveys, like I outlined, like having an email address tied to the survey. And that doesn't have to be an email address that is shared with the person conducting the survey. SurveyMonkey themselves can enter into contracts where they don't release that piece of the data. They only release the results of the survey. Then there's there's the key thing, which is actually the most popular way surveys are done now, which is you get an email, you're given a key code, and then when you enter the link, you enter the key code, and that key code is tied to each participant in the survey, and there's only one. It can't be used again. So I'm very lost on all of this, and I'm not going to say much more than that. I want to hear what the Board of Ed has to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, I don't know if we got your address.
21 Andrews Road.
All right, thank you.
Welcome.
All right, Ann Mineski. And you should be able to unmute.
Thank you. I don't know why it says the host has stopped my video. So if you could look into that, John, that'd be great. Yes, I'm here tonight to support the concerns that the parents have raised in regard to the quote unquote surveys. There needs to be investigation, thorough investigation on why individuals were able to have multiple actions on this survey. A lot of this concern of it being a quote unquote survey, an actual survey, I should say, was brought up numerous times. The material in it is problematic, I guess. I'll just leave it at that at this time. But I hope that Dr. Harrison and whoever created this survey will, and the board members look into this. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Hi, yes, I'll just be real quick here. I just want to, I've been kind of watching the goings on with this and with the surveys and I did speak about them.
I'm sorry, Kevin, if you could just give us your street.
Yeah, 4 Lilac Lane, Easton. So yeah, I see this from a couple of different perspectives that, I don't know if it's worth mentioning or not, but, I am a sitting member on the Easton Diversity Inclusion Task Force in town. And I can tell you that as a member of that committee, I certainly don't want to come across as, being opposed to the work that, Devin and that the team, that was assembled was put together to do in its entirety. I do have some objections to some of the manners and what it's being done, but the survey itself is a huge problem, and it's been a huge problem. I think that the resounding number of parents that have spoken out in concern of it have been largely ignored. The concerns of how the survey was being conducted were largely ignored. And I can only speak for myself and being a participant as I am in such an important assembly in town, that if we were to do something of that nature and hear, serious concerns about how we conduct our findings or research, I know that for me being a member of that committee, it would be highly troublesome to me for anybody to think that the information that we're trying to act upon would be in any way, shape, or form questionable. And I think that's what you ended up with here, is that you ended up with a survey that was questionable to begin with, and now is raising serious questions as it's being implemented. I would hope that you would think that out. I know that you probably won't, and I guess that's okay. But just know that, I come at it from a little bit of a different perspective. I'm not speaking out against the work that's being done because I don't agree with the work that's being done. I'm speaking out about the integrity of the work that's being done. And I highly am questioning the integrity of the work that's being done at this point. So that's pretty much all I have to say. And I hope you can find a way to retract this as it's the wheels have already started turning, and speak out to the people that have raised concern and say, look, we got it wrong, and it's okay to admit that you were wrong, and do something to try to get this right, because it's not right now. And you're going to end up with a useless amount of work that you've put in. And that's really a shame. So that's all. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay. Seeing no additional public comment, go to board member comment. Yes, Devin.
So I do want to address the surveys a little bit because it's come up here and it's also come up multiple times on some Facebook groups. As was mentioned a couple times this evening, I did try to answer folks' questions because I think it's important that we're transparent and honest. And I think everybody on the board and on the DEI task force has really tried to do that throughout this process. And I just want to reiterate, this survey was sent in the same way that the school district sends other surveys, with the same safety protocols in place. And that I think it's a pretty normal expectation. And I mean this completely respectfully, because I know everybody that's here tonight is speaking out of concern, that we would expect our families, our adults to, not cheat the system, to not send the survey to family members. And if there was a mistake, or if there was an ability to take the survey multiple times by copying and pasting it into different browsers, because you're able to change the IP address, or I've even heard about now people going onto their work VPNs to change the IP address, that we wouldn't take advantage of that loophole, because at the end of the day, you're not hurting somebody like me who was on that task force. I put a ton of hours into the survey. I worked really hard with community members to make changes and with our board members to make changes. But honestly, it's not hurting me. It's not hurting our administration. It's not hurting this board. It hurts our kids. It hurts my kids. It hurts your kids. And so at the end of the day, we have to remember why we are here, which is to make sure every single one of our students is safe in our schools. And the point of this survey was to ensure that. And I hope that we can find a solution where people find trust that we are all here for the same purpose, even sometimes when we disagree in the steps to get there, that this isn't political. Like, our kids are not political pawns in some sort of national culture warfare. We are here because we care deeply about our kids. All of us volunteer our time. And, sometimes I disagree with some of my fellow board members, but not because we don't like each other. We care about each other. We care about each other's kids. And so I just want the public to remember that we are here putting forth our best effort to make sure every single one of our kids comes to school, that they can learn and that they're able to experience a safe learning environment so they can excel academically. And I would hope that the community at large wouldn't take advantage of the same loopholes that have always been present in any survey on a survey of this nature.
Any additional board member comment?
I guess I'll just ask a question, and it may be directed. It's not really directed to Devin, but it's directed, I guess, at all of us. That is there a way to, or was there a way to make this so that we could, essentially make it such that you can't do what these folks are claiming you can do? Is that just not possible in SurveyMonkey and these things these days? Because I'm not proficient in any of this stuff. I know I asked the question way back when, that just to make sure that we got the data that we wanted to get, and nothing more, nothing less. But and I don't know if it's even makes sense to contemplate restarting this. But I'm just, maybe there's just not a way to do it without making it overly complicated. I don't know.
So Randy, I'll respond to that. I'm not sure that. So I don't know a ton about SurveyMonkey. I mean, I know enough to be able to answer some basic questions. It is something that I'll look into. We started doing some work on Friday, as several people mentioned, Friday evening. Just to address some of the initial concerns that we had. So, to the question of, would we have anticipated this? As everyone has mentioned, we've used SurveyMonkey a lot. I mean, multiple times this year, with pretty, challenging topics around reopening and, just some of the other issues throughout this year that have been kind of hot button issues, and then even kind of preparing for reopening in the fall, just gathering feedback on those things. And so we moved forward with the same protocols that are typically in place. We were really intentional about not collecting any identifiable information. And I think that one of the goals of the committee, as we were talking about really trying our best to collect information anonymously so that people felt comfortable, we wanted to make sure that people, that we were really intentional about sending the message, like we're not just saying that it's confidential, and then people wondering, well, why are you collecting, why is this tied to a specific email address? Because I think that, that would take a lot of explaining on the back end of, well, here's how SurveyMonkey does that, and here's how we could do that where it's not collecting. And, I think from the outset, we wanted to make sure that there was a real sense of trust in the fact that it was anonymous. So we can go back and look at what some other options are. Clearly, and I appreciate Devin's point that, obviously our intention is really just to get a clear picture of what people's experiences are like. And, even though these workarounds can happen, we wouldn't expect that they would happen. And so, now we're I think we'll look at are there things that we could do differently if there's a need to roll it out again, right? To look at the responses that we have so far. And then this also gives us some good information as we're preparing for the sharing of the links for the student surveys as well.
I'll add, Randy, depending on the nature of our contract with SurveyMonkey, we may be able to ask them today to go in and basically do deduplicate answers. And they do that. They can do that based on IP addresses as well as a number of identifying factors that can be unique to a machine, whether or not you're using a VPN. And I think to the I was about to say caller, but the public commenter before, we would never have access to that information. So we would never be able to marry that back to anything, but we may be able to ask them to sort of deduplicate on our behalf, which I think would be the right thing to do. So we maintain that sort of anonymous sort of promise that we made to people, while also, making sure that we don't have tainted data. So we may be able to dive in onto that without having to reissue, but I don't know the nature of our contract with SurveyMonkey, so we can chase that down.
Okay, great.
Okay. If there's no additional comment, we can move on to the purpose of the meeting, which is to dive in on our 2020-2021 budget year closeout. Sounds like some kind of party. It's not. And the allocation of unexpended funds. So I know Dr. Harrison and Mr. Zachary did a tremendous amount of work, looking at all the different places. I'm sure Dr. Pearson, you all also did a lot of work as and probably our building leaders as well. So I'll give you the opportunity if I have the various documents that were sent. If you want me to bring those up, Clarence, I'm happy to do that. But if you want to kick things off, we can follow your lead as we get started.
All right, I just want to sort of frame the discussion. Mr. Chair, do I have the ability to share my screen?
You do. You should be a co-host.
All right, so let me start off by sharing my screen. All right, so can you all see that?
It's coming up. There we go. Yep.
So this is our budget object summary, which you're all familiar with. This was run today, approximately 3:30 p.m. So to give you the framework of where we stand today. If you look in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see that we have an unexpended budget of $1.1 million and some $62,000 and change as of approximately 3:30 today. Today being the 21st of June, so we have approximately 9 days left in the month. So if that's sort of our starting point, the question is, what do we think is going to be spent on that number going forward the remainder of the month? So let me share something else, help us get into the conversation. Here we go. So this is the same information. The previous one was a PDF. This is an Excel output of it. So I was able to add some additional data to it. So I'll scroll this up. So once again, that 1.162 number we just talked about, that's what our available balance is as of today. We have to back some things out of that we know we have to pay for. The first one is projected payroll through the end of the month, which is approximately $955,000. We have an additional $50,000 in what we call night differential substitute pay. Since we don't know what that's going to be, it's an estimate. The projected payroll number is a hard and fast number. The differential is an estimate. We have some contractual payouts for unused sick leave, so that's a hard and fast number. The VARIP is what we agree. It's optional. It's $102,000 that we talked about paying prepaying that for the VARIP you just signed up for. You previously have agreed to fund the food services fund of $37,000. Those numbers net off the 1.1 come out to be $9,439.93. As we previously discussed, part of our available balances, there's $845,000 of encumbered funds, including that. Of the $845,000, $343,566 is for health claims related. We don't think we'll need that, so we're showing there a release of that encumbrance, which means those funds become available. We have an additional, we estimate at this point, additional $31,000 worth of reimbursements and grants we have to attribute later on this week, which gives us a projected total of $384,000 and change of unspent funds projected at the end of the month. So the question becomes, then what do you do with those funds? I sent you all a voluminous amount of documents last week, so I'm not sure you had a chance to look through it, but it's sort of the various needs that we've been able to identify. So I'm gonna change sheets here and go to those needs. And then Randy had asked me if I could categorize them into safety related. So these are my opinions. So you all may not agree with my opinions, but I put them into 4 categories: safety related, operational efficiency, site improvements, and facility improvements. Facility means internal to the buildings. Site meaning external to the building. So I think I gave you guys these lists of things, so you already have it. But what I've done here at the bottom, I've summed them up. There's about 89,000 worth of safety related, another 55,000 of operational efficiency related. The site improvements is a big number. Obviously, that's something, that's a long-term project, but we wanted you to be aware of it. And the facility improvements are another 31,000 rounding. So it's a question of how you want to approach this. I personally think the site improvements are a long-term project, long-term discussion about what we do at Helen Keller, but I want to make you all aware that whatever we do, those site improvements are the first line of things. And we don't change those site issues, we're just going to keep redoing the same thing over and over again, because the site issues is what's leading to some of the problems we're having at Helen Keller. So the point of sharing that with you is that until you address those issues, and if you might want to use these funds to start addressing them, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but put it there. Also on the parking lot at Samuel Staples, during our building condition assessment, we've got a ballpark number that I put TBD there because I didn't want to give you sticker shock, but it's a significant number. And as you saw from the email exchange I shared with you all, it looks like the entire parking lot needs to be done. And that is a multiple 7-figure number. So the estimate, so I just put TBD there because it would just skew the whole discussion. So I left that out. So I think the question for you all, my ranking left to right is how I would do priorities. I would go safety, operational. Some of the site improvements I'd probably address. The reason why I put facility improvements last is you're probably gonna hopefully have a bigger project down the road dealing with internal stuff inside the building. So why spend money when you're gonna be doing it down the road? It's sort of my approach, but you all can decide how you wanna go about doing it. So you've got the supporting documentation for most of these line items. So if you have any questions about any of them, I'm available to answer them, but this is just sort of how I approached it. So once again, you've got approximately 89,000 of safety related, another 55 operational efficiencies. The site improvements, as I discussed, is a big long-term project. So if you want to shuffle facility improvement in front of site improvements, you get within the budget of what you have available left over for unspent funds.
What's column F?
Facility improvement.
Facility improvements. Okay. Do you have totals for each category by any chance?
That's
If not,
what
I
you
think
see
I
in
can
there.
crank them out pretty quickly.
It's right there. Can you see it?
Yes, I see. Okay.
So if you want to talk about any particular things you have questions about, I'm willing to and prepared to do that. Randy, does that address your email that you sent earlier? You're on mute, Randy. You're still on mute.
I know. I'll figure this computer out one of these days. Yeah, that's helpful. That's very helpful. And the site improvements, I still think, well, that in conjunction with the parking lot, at some point, maybe we do some of the smaller dollar ones, but that just feels like a bonding. Now, when you say multiple seven figures, you're talking about more than $1 million, Clarence?
The quote, the original estimate I have that in the building a condition assessment of Samuel Staples for the parking lot and the sidewalks was more than $1 million. Yes. Okay. Because the assumption was the whole thing needs to be redone. In the email I shared with you all, we seem to confirm that. So I agree these are bond projects, but the point is there some things you want to sort of pick off and do early? I want to give you the full sort of menu so you can choose if you want to do it or not, but I agree these are long-term bond issues.
Yeah, and I don't, and I'll be honest, and maybe other people do, but I don't understand, or I'm not sure what it means to say, classroom, wing, mechanical room, 2,500. I think I'm not sure what that is.
Okay, so I'd have to show you on a map. Basically, they're just describing a location in the building. That's what.
And what's the fix?
I'd have to pull it up in the detail. You talking about the site improvement? If you look in that that very detailed tie and bond report, they're showing you the sort of grade. There's a lot of grade issues at the building where the base of the water is flowing downhill to certain parts of the building. So if you read the report, it'll tell you exactly what they're talking about doing for that area.
Okay, so it felt, and I didn't go through them all, I'll be honest, I felt like a lot of the Helen Keller stuff is water related, be it site drains.
Correct.
New drains, excavating old drains, and what have you. So
it's mostly, most of the problems we have in the building are water related. And that's my early point. Until you solve these site issues, fixing the building itself doesn't really make sense because the cause is still there. Yeah. I would say fix the cause, then go fix the building, the effect of the cause.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear you. I mean, $500,000 to fix the water. Holy smokes! We should just make it a boat and call it a day.
And Randy, the other piece of this is that, of course, none of this includes the roof of Helen Keller.
Correct.
Right. So that now you're talking about a bonding issue that's going to be in the $3 to $4 million range, and that's a more reasonable number to look at when we get to that.
Randy, so come August, September, you'll get a full detailed report of the building condition assessment, and we pulled this out just so you could sort of see maybe if you want to do some of this stuff early. That's why I shared it. But the more detailed report you'll see in August or September. We had a discussion whether should we share that to you or not. But given you had almost $400,000, do you choose to do one of these two things to get a head start or not? You may not, but we just want to give you the information to make that decision.
Yeah, no, I hear you, and I don't honestly know if we can, would you spend $55,000 to replace building under drains? Does that make any sense if you don't spend the $400,000 to fix all these other exterior site improvement things that have to do with water? I just don't.
Correct. I would agree with that.
So I mean, part of me says we put the site improvements unless there's something that is just critical and, you know, relatively small dollars, and we put those in a parking lot, so to speak, and then, bad analogy, and then we go back to the other things that, you know, are 150, 100,000, somewhere in that range. But before we do that, Clarence, where do we end the year from a reserve if we do the sort of the 350, if we release the 271, 270 funds?
Let me pull up, hold on, I gotta pull up your healthcare report. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah, let's see if I can find it from last month as well.
Financial. All right, let me share it, what I have here in the healthcare report. So fortunately, we've had a very good year. I just had a very difficult conversation with the Reading board. They didn't have such a good year. So right now, you're showing a balance of 329 in the May. That's higher because we moved 2 months worth. So it's closer to probably 600 to 700,000. Actually, you know what? It's actually close to 800,000 as of now. But as of May, it was at 329. We moved some funds over since we had the great claims year. So you're going to end the year between $700,000, $800,000 in reserves if June turns out like it was for the previous month. So you have an average in 187 a month. So your reserve balance, you can add more money to if you wanted to, but you're going to be based on the same spot you start the year off at.
And Clarence, that's also taking the 300,000+ and using it for these projects.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
Mr. Parker, we already took the 2 months out and funded it in early June. You
Right.
don't see it in the report yet because we haven't done the June report. So that money's there, but it's not reflecting this report because this is the May report.
Okay,
Does that
so,
answer your question?
Yes, sir.
and just so I'm clear, the 2065 you show in claims, and let's just say June is 187. So you're at, you know, 250, and our budget was 26. So essentially that's the 350 that you're saying we can slide over, give some back to the town, slide some over and spend some, you know, do some projects that we desperately need to do.
What we did, Randy, during the course of the year, we were drawing down your original fund balance and not drawing from the town. So we were about 2 months behind from drawing from the town. So we drew those 2 months, which is going to put the fund balance back between 700,000 and 800,000. What's left over is that encumbered amount. Show you the actual amount. So we've got about 845,000 encumbered in 271 account. We think 350 of that is what will be left over when we release it. So the rest encumbered is still showing that us moving the money over. So of the 845, we're going to leave 350. The rest is going over to get the reserve back to where we start the year.
Okay, so you, after the 350, we'll still have a 700 to 800 reserve balance.
Yes.
Okay. I think you already answered that one. So
Yeah.
okay.
Any additional questions? Anyone looking for clarity? I have one item. So the server, do you have any details for sort of what's driving that, or sort of what that's for?
We're basically replacing, I think the count is 9 servers with 3 servers. Basically they're obsolete. So we're replacing, their storage capacity is not as robust as these 3. So we've got a quote to bring in these 3 and phase out 3 current servers, and they would be divided amongst the 3 districts. So that's with the software package, that's about 10 grand worth of servers. I have a list of if you want a list of the devices we're phasing out, I can provide that to you.
No, yeah, and I'm just curious about this device in particular. These servers in particular are primarily for storage, so I'm just curious about sort of our sort of cloud solution versus what looks like a fair, I mean, $8,000 server is a pretty serious server.
It is a serious server, but what you got to remember, it's replacing replacing 9 different servers. So that's why it's.
And is there any utility in us waiting for, what I think we're hoping will be a relatively, sort of soon to come acquisition of a new head of technology?
I don't think so, because that new head is more focused on the academic. This is a very much a back office network sort of thing. This is not academically related. This is very much IT, our IT team in the network infrastructure. There's not an academic piece to it. It's just sort of, it's an operational issue.
And are we seeing the other districts? It looks like there's one per district.
Basis of work out. So I'm showing this same information. I'm going to be showing to all 3 districts. So yes.
Okay. Anyone have any more questions?
One thing I want to point out, in the safety, there was about a $15,000 request for a structural review. Just so you all know, the cafeteria at Helen Keller, we have some tiles buckling because of water, but unexplained, we also have some tiles cracking in the center of the cafeteria. And there's concern there may be some structural issue. That's why they want to do the structural survey to figure out what's going on in the middle of the cafeteria. So that's one of the things I talked to Mr. Stinson about. We have this issue that we don't know. We got to figure out what's causing the problem. We know what's going on in the peripheries of the cafeteria, but in the center where there is no water, we're still getting cracking. And so they think it may be a structural issue. That's why they wanted to do that structural survey to figure out what's going on.
Parents, what if these things need to be bid, multiple bids and all that stuff?
Well, they would. These are just quotes we have from vendors that our architects who are doing the building condition assessment. I had them prepare quotes, but yes, we'd have to put it out the bid, but it's just that you needed a number. So I made requests and got a number.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for that, Clarence.
And this carbon monoxide alarms, those are just replacing old ones, or we don't have them currently?
You don't have them. So that's why I put it under safety. So I think you can see the connection I'm making there. There's also an very old panel at Helen Keller that needs to be replaced. The building needs some capital infused, and some of them I think, or since they're safety related, I'm advocating we do them now and not wait for overall bonding package. And the fact that most of us have carbon monoxide alarms in our homes that we don't have in the school building is a bit alarming to me. And you're not alone. We have that same problem in Reading also. So on their list, there's also a carbon monoxide alarm indicated.
Okay. Yeah. And the tie and bond or TIG and bond, what's that again?
Well, you've got a lot of water in your building. That's to figure out where the water's going.
Okay, so that's okay. Yeah, we know we have it. We just don't know where it's going or where it's coming from.
Well, we know where it's coming from. We don't know where it's going and what it's doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think Mr. Parker understands why those initials are there on my sheet.
Yes, I do.
So if you can let Mr. Hicks know so I don't have to talk about it, I'd appreciate it.
So I guess we need to prioritize what comes first. Certainly, what I'm hearing you say, if we have servers that are obsolete, there really isn't much discussion about needing to replace those. Is that
Not
true?
really, no. From our IT team's viewpoint, no. And we've got some aggressive pricing, so we're trying to take advantage of it. But once again,
but wait, no, I mean, servers these are in short supply right now. Like if anything, servers are at a peak price right now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The pricing we got, we feel very good about. That's why we want to strike while the iron's hot. Because as you know, Mr. Stinson, electronic components there's a short supply, so prices are rising.
Yeah, until we get the supply chain issues figured out. Yeah, we haven't heard anything else about these servers and what the purpose of them is. I'm very concerned about we may be investing in a server technology that's actually obsolete, right? Because storage servers, we don't need storage servers, right? So I'm just not sure what these are for. Like
So if you'd like to
what's
have a
the purpose?
conversation with our IT team, we can arrange that, but this is sort of from their perspective, looking at our network, they feel very strongly about the need for this. And since it serves all 3 districts, that's why I'm trying to allocate the cost amongst all 3 districts.
Yeah,
Sure.
Changing topics. Didn't Sue mention the carpet in the library?
that's there under recommended site improvements for HKMS stuff, right?
Yep.
What is that? What line items would that be?
I don't know if that, to Randy's, I don't know if the carpet is in there for the library, because I think there was a question. I think she did, Randy, and I might have missed it, but that's one of those things also will be a facility improvement that if you're going to do a larger scale project at the building, changing the carpet now, you'd have to probably end up changing again. So I don't know if that would make sense to do it twice.
I see the main office carpet is on there for row 8, right? Yeah.
Yep. My hope is that we find the will and the funding to make a comprehensive solution. So internal stuff you may end up doing twice, which I would want to avoid. But obviously, my main preference would be safety and security type items.
Sure. I was hoping that the storm drain clean out might open up, and as well as the test pits for the exposed under drains, that might help us.
It might, but like I say, that's why as in the other group, you may want to choose that 1 or 2 small items out of that site improvements. That's why I showed it to you, because it gives us some information we don't currently have.
It just might relieve the water table pressure on the bottom of the school. And I only know that's possible because that's what I did in my own home.
I know it's possible because in a previous district, we had a school had the same problems that Helen Keller's had, and that's one of the things we did. We sent a camera down the drains, and saw it was clogged.
Right.
Had to unclog it. That solved some of the problems, not all, but it did help some of the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the mechanical systems, is that for both buildings, Clarence? The service plan?
No, that's just for Helen Keller.
Okay.
I've read that.
Chiller repair at Samuel Staples, that is something I think we should definitely consider, because if we don't have the chiller, the AC's questionable in that very large building.
Reading their proposal, I'm not sure what services we are going to receive for the money that we spend.
For which the service plan?
Yes, sir.
Or Helen Keller? Okay. That was the request of the head custodian, and we can delve deeper into that if you like.
It was clear about the services that some of the services that they were going to provide and what the terms and what the costs were going to be. But I guess I couldn't put together exactly what was going to be done and how often it would be done. Just the dollars involved. So, Al's very, very good. So whatever his recommendation, I'd want to listen to that carefully, but I'd still like to understand more what it was, what it is that we're paying for.
It is his recommendation. We can arrange to get more detail if you like, Mr. Parker.
Okay.
All right. So how do you want to do this? Do you want to go?
Yeah,
Go back to the columns, or you want to do rows?
Columns? Yeah, I think if we look at the columns and we feel comfortable, for instance, if we said safety all the way down, that's 88,000, 88,819. If we said yes to all of that, and I think we'd want to just sort of make sure we're very clear, that's the Windows security improvement, the blah, 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 sort of go through each one.
Yep. Yeah, here we go. Okay.
So I'm gonna highlight in green the stuff that I have listed as safety, so that way
Yep.
we can be very clear.
Yeah, a little lighter green, please.
Yeah, a little more contrast. Yep.
Very picky tonight.
Okay,
Oh, that's nice. That's
all
nice.
righty.
I got a pair of socks in that color.
Carbon monoxide. So these are the things that are in the safety category for 88,819.
Yep.
You've got the window security, the hazard material remediation in the locker room. You've apparently known about this for a while. It's got to be done by 2025. So let's get that away. The wall safety padding for the gym, the replacement stair treads. We did get updated quotes on that. So that's why you see a different number from what we had originally proposed, but Alan got updated numbers. The tie and bond survey, I think, is important for us to understand what's going on in the building, carbon monoxide alarms, and the structural review for the cafeteria for Helen Keller, and then the carbon monoxide alarms for Samuel Staples. That would be the quote unquote safety items. In their entirety, $88,819 is the estimate.
So if we took that and if it was determined that the server replacement was necessary, then we're talking about 100K.
Yep. So if I add the server replacements here.
Oh, right. You got to get the software too. Yeah, you're right, Jeff. You're right at like 99.
It's 99, yes.
Yep. And that's coming from 380.
So hold up one second. I'll give you, since you want to know, we're estimated 384.
Yep.
So we've got.
So just, I mean, my own perspective, I don't know where other people are at, but I think it would be right to try to give back to the town 250 or so. I mean, or more.
Yeah,
I agree.
John. Yeah.
If I can make a request, I think you definitely take care of that chiller repair at Samuel Staples, because if you don't have AC in that building, you're gonna have an issue.
Yeah.
I'll triple yeah, support that. Yeah.
So just from my perspective, I'm gonna highlight in Mr. Park, you want light blue or dark blue?
Let's go light, because I've got a pair of socks in light blue too.
All right, so we'll get our close to Carolina blue as we can.
I really would root for Syracuse orange, but that's probably just too much.
I can't. That's a bit too much for me, Mr. Parker.
Okay, fair enough.
I would say.
The principal's office, the window. I feel like that's not something that you'd need to redo, right? If you did a larger.
No, you wouldn't.
I think it would be a very nice thing to have.
Yeah,
that
it's not
window
it's
for
small.
a new principal.
So these one in blue are the ones I would recommend if you could do them. You got the principal's office window, the topographic survey, because all those site improvements that we talked about, you need the survey done before you really start moving dirt around. So that's sort of a initial step. The clean out and the video record of the storm drains, to Mr. Parker's point, it can solve a lot of problems and it's not a big ticket item. The test pits for under drains also could expose some answers that we're looking for, not a big ticket item. The downspouts, not a big ticket item, can also solve some problems. The roof leader downspouts, once again, those should be just typical maintenance things, but I would recommend you do it. And then the chiller repair. So those are the operational efficiency things to me. So let me see what the total
I
of
think
that
we're like
is.
12 over, or 13 or 14 over maybe.
Yeah, so let me do it here. We can get rid of that.
And I may have been juggling those numbers incorrectly in my head, but
It's all right. We'll,
Yeah, we got two big ones in there. One the 12 and one
Yep.
the 17. That's 30, 35.
so it's
40.
44 for the site.
Right.
Operational improvements, including, so if I down, gives you 143.
Right, and the 143 out of the 184. What are we?
So that's going to be two
7?
what
241.
240? Yeah.
So we're about nine short of where a rough target. Do we want to take another pass through, or do we think that 241 is pretty close to $250,000 and is still a pretty good return to the town?
Yeah, I think a lot of these could save us money next year. So all these drainage thingies, water things, a lot of that issue, if we don't do something about it, we could just have a much bigger expense to the town next year. So I think those things seem very rational. The chiller, I mean, the number of complaints we got about air conditioning at the end of the year, we're running a summer program, it's hot. So I think that's like, to me, both, that feels like a safety issue just as much as an operational issue.
If we lose AC,
So
it is a safety. It is a safety. If we lose the AC, it is a safety issue.
Agreed. Yep. So
These are estimates, good estimates.
That's right.
Not the final numbers. It could cut both ways, I suppose.
That's true.
But hopefully it cuts, the right way. Jeff, do you remember when was the last time we did? It seems that we did the stair treads not that long ago, and because of the water, we have to keep doing this. Or I mean, it was probably
we've done this. We've done this within the last 10 years. And I think it just goes to Clarence's point that if, we can throw a little bit of money at something a lot of times, or we can get to the root problem, which I think is where
right. Well,
I think we all need to go.
If it's been 10 years, that's better than I thought. So, but still, okay.
Does someone want to make a motion?
I was thinking the same.
Well,
thing.
let me just ask one more question of Clarence. We've got basically $25,000 tied up in the assessment surveys and the topographical surveys.
Yes, approximately.
Is there any movement that we could do to still gain some valuable knowledge without it being a $25,000 bill?
You can put it out to bid, but there's, as you are aware, Ms. Parker, when you're a professional service firm and you have a specialized expertise, you're going to charge what you're going to charge. So we can put it out to bid, but I don't know if it's going to get any, how much better it's going to be. The problem for us is we need this information.
I was thinking
questions answered.
I was thinking about the parameters of the survey as maybe a way to cut down on some of the costs.
You might be able to do that. To me, I'm taking an approach. We have a Pandora's box situation here, and I want to find out everything that could be right or wrong, and then I can develop a plan to fix it. Because if I cut corners on trying to figure what's right or wrong, I may miss something, and then we just end up spinning our wheels. Yeah,
no, I understand your point. I'm just wondering if we change the specs a little, could we still get what we want? Because I know that Public Works drilled a number of holes thinking they were going to find water and didn't find any. So it's not that it's coming from someplace to us. It is I think simply the entire water table for where the building is sitting on.
I think you're right, Ms. Parker. What we found during the walking through the building condition assessment, every south-facing wall, which means facing towards Fairfield, which is facing towards the upward hill, is where we're having the problems. Every north-facing wall heading north towards town, we don't have a problem. So all the water is coming from the elevated position, and if you look through that report, that you can see our grading in some of the court and the pathway between the buildings are we'd want the water to be flowing to the drain, but the drain's sitting higher than it's just basic sort of like,
Yeah.
what were we thinking? How do we allow this to happen?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think if the town understands that what we're doing here is fully vetting the problems that are existing with the water table of which the school sits on, and that we're prudently spending the money to try to find answers before we undergo some major capital project. I think for my vote, I think 241 back to the town would be fine.
Yeah, I think that's right. Does Clarence, if you could scroll down a bit so we can get the number that we're planning. Thank you.
Well, remember, this is an estimate. So
yep.
I think the way you want to phrase it is these projects not to exceed whatever, and then whatever's left over, you give to the town. Cause I don't want, it come out, maybe more.
Yeah, I think we want to say something around the lines of not to exceed.
Yeah, I think you want to put a number in there of 150 or 100, because or 145, because if you're going to be above that, then we may have to pull something out. We may have
right.
to pull out something
that's right.
There you go. Okay.
So someone want to make that motion?
Let's see here.
I can't do it.
I'd like
sure.
to make a motion. Okay, go for it, Randy.
No, go ahead.
You'll say it better than me. I'll make a motion to allocate $241,062.33 to repair safety related issues.
Sorry, I think that's actually the remaining back to the town. I think it's the 145.
Oh, I'm shocked.
Yep.
Okay. Okay. I would like to make a motion to
Allocate.
allocate. Thank you.
Up to
$145,000 to safety related and operational efficiency items as listed on Mr. Zachary's spreadsheet.
Great. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Jeff. Any additional discussion? Okay, do we just go ahead?
Just timing, Clarence, what's your best guess on timing?
Hold on, Randy. In time in regards to what, Randy?
Just is this, how much of this could get done over the summer, or some of it?
I would hope to get a lot of this done over the summer. I've got people, some of these quotes I've had since March, and I just couldn't fund it. So and others, it's like, we're ready to go. So this would be sort of like full bore. Once I get the go ahead, I'm trying to get people going.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
And do we need, is anyone aware, do we need a separate motion to talk about sort of returning the funds, or do we understand that up to 145 means everything else goes back to the town?
That's all we need.
Okay, good. All right, good. Any additional comments? Hearing none, we'll call the question. All in favor? I see Jeff, I see Randy, I see Devin. I vote yes as well. The motion passes 4-0. Very good. All right, that takes us, thank you, Clarence. That was excellent. Really, really helpful to go through in that detail.
No problem. Ms. Park, I gave you an orange cube, so you're good.
Thank you, Clarence.
No socks that color. Oh, no.
I think, thank you. I'm not quite sure.
All right, that takes us to item 4B, Superintendent Outlook for 2021-22 school year. We'll ask Dr. Harrison to give us a little bit of his thoughts about what he hopes for in 2021-2022. I think there's been a lot of calls for trying to get back to normal as much as possible next year, to not have masks, to not have, and I think by and large, people are supportive of that. I think it's worth noting that the state and federal governments may impose certain rules about how we do this. And we may not have the sort of discretion to do that, but I wanted to give Dr. Harrison an opportunity to sort of speak to that.
Where's that coming from?
I think it was Dr. Harrison. He's going to try his headphones, I think. Is that like, I think that's Flappy Bird. I think that's, maybe it's a Minecraft thing. I don't know.
Maybe if we all muted, would that help?
Yeah, let's try that.
Okay.
Okay, maybe, is that better now? Great.
Perfect.
So now I have to remember what I was going to say. Thinking about next year. Yes, we are waiting for, again, still waiting for guidance from the state. We have some of the work that we have to do is around developing a reopening plan for next year. That really sort of builds off of the plan from this year, but really kind of looks at a number of areas that the state gave us to be able to provide some input on. Things like the mitigation strategies that we have in place this year, we're still waiting for guidance, specific guidance coming from the CDC and then the Department of Public Health with respect to things like the big question out there is to what extent will we have flexibility around wearing masks? And there have been a number of a few districts and a few of my colleagues, my superintendent colleagues, who have come out and made some statements about, we are not going to require masks for next year. I did some checking in. I can't tell everyone else how to, what statements they should make or how to run their district. Those statements are a little bit premature because we really have to follow whatever the guidance that comes to us from the state. Now, one thing I will say, we asked for parent feedback in a survey a couple of weeks ago, and gave people an opportunity to share what are the things that they want us to consider as we're making plans for next year. And overwhelmingly, the feedback that we received was around mask wearing for next year. And really just asking for, if there is flexibility that is available to districts, that we would not require masks to be worn if that was an option. And that's really something that we could think about. All of our decisions kind of throughout this whole year with respect to COVID and our and mitigation strategies have been in collaboration with our health districts and our local health districts specifically. I want to make sure that we're continuing with that and really hearing from that guidance as well. For now, I could say that we're anticipating more information to come, and I'm hoping that comes really soon. The other thing that I would say, just as far as next year, Dr. Piercy-Ugal and I and some of our other administrators on our team, we've spent all day today and we'll spend all day tomorrow working with a number of other districts and some folks from the Connecticut Center for School Change around digging into this work around acceleration. So we've talked about that in the past. So what are the lessons that we learned throughout this year from an academic standpoint or from even a structural standpoint, and how do we apply those things that we learned this year as we're looking forward and making plans for next year from an instructional standpoint, but also looking at the ways that we're using time, the ways that we are using our technology and resources to really improve instruction and really connect with our students. And so we'll continue to look at that. Specifically, one of the things that was a key component of this year was around students having the option to learn from home for the entire year. and cohort C, or the virtual learning group. So while we won't have that same, and that was part of the state requirements for this year. The state has already announced that it's lifted that requirement for next year. So we do not plan to go forward with having, with offering another cohort C. That said, we do anticipate that there'll still be some guidelines that we'll have to follow around related to potential quarantines after people or students are exposed. So we're looking at what are the options that we have to respond to that. So a couple of things that have been on the table is to have students during those short-term quarantines, to have them engage with their classwork with asynchronously. And so continuing to use Google Classroom, and then looking at some creative ways to use some of our additional support staff that we've built in with our ESSER grant, and looking at can we use some of the interns that we have that we're contracting with, to particularly at the younger grades, to continue doing some small group work during that time, virtually during that time, while students might be in a short-term quarantine. But the cohort C, as we see it this year, that will not continue into next year. I think that everyone is really optimistic about getting back to normal, having things look and feel more like school. We saw that, the last couple of weeks of school, things really started to feel really normal. And it was great this all last week, having all of our end of year ceremonies and moving up ceremonies where we had people together, where we had our students and we were able to celebrate our students' accomplishments as a community. Those are things that I think that as a full administrative team, our teachers, everyone's really looking forward to getting back to that, and really thinking about ways that we could continue to build community and really nurture those connections that we have with our students and their families.
Great, thank you. Any questions for Dr. Harrison?
No, I guess, I mean, it's a week by week, month by month thing, right? As the information becomes available. I mean, I was listening to Dr. Scott Gottlieb this morning, and he was not optimistic about math being out of schools come this fall, which I was very disappointed to hear. And I think he's a local guy. So, but in any event, I'm hoping for the best. I think it would be a huge lift for, going quote unquote back to normal, but I guess we have to take it month by month and see where we are. So.
Good. Any additional questions or comments?
I would just echo Randy's thoughts that to be able for our kids to be able to go back to school in the fall without masks. I mean, we can still exercise some social distancing. We can still do some things along those lines, but to get rid of the masks, I think would be a very, very important and a very strong step forward.
Yep. All right. Great. All right. If there's no additional items there, then we'll move on to 5, public comment. And give everyone just a moment. I see Dana.
Yeah, I wanted to go back on the budget with Clarence.
I'm sorry, just if you could state your
Dana Benson, 34 Pond Road, Easton.
Thank you.
34 Pond Road, Easton. So Clarence, a couple things in the budget. Carbon monoxide detectors, it looked like $14,000 per school. And could you explain, I mean, I buy a CO2 detector at, Lowe's for $20. So, 14,000 per school, can you explain the difference between a commercial or the school system that you're contemplating and the simple retail detectors? I guess actually we're supposed to make comments, I guess, not ask questions. Sorry about that. So let me rephrase it. As a rhetorical question, I'm puzzled by the vast difference in price, and I'm sure there's a good explanation, which I'll dig up at some point. And the other question was the idea of multi-million dollars being spent over at Samuel Staples. You know, I'm not privy to the information that goes back and forth amongst in terms of the sidewalk and the parking lot. You know, that's something that if there's public information, I would be fascinated to look at that because I wasn't aware we had such a big problem there. And then the last comment was Tighe & Bond is a very fine firm. I am familiar with them from our own some old hydraulic work that I had done in the past. So they certainly are a AAA name to be talking to about water problems at Keller.
Great, thank you. Ann Minuski.
Yes, thank you, John. So is there a problem tonight with the fact that no video of the public?
So the settings, and we're not supposed to do, you know, back and forth. So the settings, we established the settings because there were a number of people who were coming in and putting offensive images as a part of their videos in a previous meeting. And so we established a sort of more secure set of protocols. I think we can probably, you know, sort of loosen those up. That's just these are the settings that were on the meeting, the sort of default meeting profile that we had established for this.
When was that submitted to the public?
So we're not going to go back and forth, but that's not something that needs to be submitted to the public.
That's true. I guess, yeah, I'll let you go on that one. Not sure if, so a couple of things. One was, I didn't understand why Easton and Reading had separate meetings tonight. Why was this not a joint meeting? Let's see. The masks now that Dr. Fauci has been found to have been silent on a lot of things. So states and the masks are off. I'm sure Dr. Harrison and others have seen the signs all around town and actually across Connecticut that we do get the majority part of the sexual education of our fourth graders that needs to be revealed. I guess so. Since I was able to obtain some of the curriculum for quote unquote health and wellness. The public will be putting that up on the Save Our Towns, Save Our Schools website. And going back to the DEI CRT survey, parents really need to look into the 1776 project, Dr. Woodson's work, and understand that this Hegelian dialectic was dropped on our town. And this is very unfortunate that we need to strive for unity, and especially for our children, for their future. And I'm hoping that the Easton School District will work with not pushing CRT into the schools. We've been able to pull out some material that we think can be considered CRT. So, but that I'll save that for another day. Thank you.
Okay, board member comment?
None from here.
Nothing? All right, we'll look for a motion to adjourn. Thank you, Randy. Seconded by Devin. Very good. All in favor? Excellent. We are adjourned at 8:47 p.m. Thanks, everyone.